Hi, welcome to the Interaxis channel, Interaxis.io. Today, I apologize, I went a little casual, but I had to talk about a podcast that I listened to. It was NLW, the Breakdown podcast, with this guy named Emil Kalinowski, and they were talking about the fact that for years there hasn't been enough money. Since 2007, there just has not been enough money in the world. So first, I want to ask you to, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. Please check us out on Twitter at Interaxis8, our website Interaxis.io. But now I'm going to move on. I had to talk about this. We haven't talked about anything in a while. So the point of this particular podcast was the fact that Emil said there is not enough money, and we as a world have been trying our best to create more money and to create enough money since 2007. Now, we think of creating money, this is the important part that Emil hit, and how I'm going to bring it back to crypto and DeFi, but we think about money in terms of central banks creating money, the money printer go burr, that kind of thing. And so what happened years ago in the past was if I needed money for a business, right? I can be efficient with my business. I know what I do. Let's say I'm in real estate or I'm in manufacturing and I know my business, and I go, I need some more money. I need $100,000 to get my business going or to invest. And I can make a greater percentage on that. So the percent I can make is greater than the percent I'm going to pay back to usually the bank, all right? There's a need for me to get this money because I'm going to make more in this business than I pay back the bank. That is efficiency. If the bank hangs on to this money, it just kind of sits there. If they let me borrow it, I can produce a greater percent, and that goes into the world, right? Because now I make more money, I invest it, I pay more people, all that. That is efficiency. The whole point of financial markets is getting money to more efficient means, more efficient mechanisms, not to just sit on the money. So what happened in the past was when there was some indication that there was a need for more money, there were more people like me that are business owners, entrepreneurs that needed money to go do something that was more efficient. And there's evidence of the fact that there are greater efficiencies out there, things to do with the money, that would have to filter up to, in many cases, the Fed. And the Fed at that point would have to look at all the data and decide, all right, we will print more money, we will distribute it through the banks, that's our means of distribution of more money, we will distribute it to the banks, and then those banks will distribute it to the people who need it to make everything more efficient. But what has happened, especially since 2007, is the banks, this could be other, especially other private companies, have said, we're not going to wait around always for the Fed to print more money. What we're going to do is we're going to go out and we're just going to lend money, whether we have it or not. And we're going to kind of take this gamble. Now, Emil and NLW can tell you a lot more. I'm not a macro economist. I don't know as much about the real economics, like the true mechanisms behind all this. I'm going based on what they said and based on what I know of economics, but this is how we understand this. And I'm not getting all the technicalities exactly right, but this is the gist of it. Banks and other companies have been able to say, look, we will lend out more money. We will lend out more money a lot of times than we even have, and we'll borrow that from someplace else. Now what they're doing, as we all know, and we'll go back a little bit into the banking, what they're really doing here is if I deposit money, so now I'm Adam the depositor, I put money in the bank, and then Ron comes along and needs money for his business that's going to be more efficient. Now, we all know that they don't just sit this pile of money here that belongs to Adam, right? We all know this is just an accounting entry. I have this deposit here of $100,000, which would be awesome, right? I have this deposit here that I can take out at any one point, but they don't just sit it there in the vault, this pile of cash that belongs to Adam. They go and lend it out to different people. and they leverage it, right? So I put $100,000 in here. Ron might borrow $100,000, so they might lend it out to him. They might lend out $50,000 to someone else and $50,000 to someone else. So they can lend out money. What are they doing here? They're evaluating the ability of people like Ron, of business owners, to actually pay that back, and they're going to make some sort of spread, right? Because they're paying me some minuscule percentage of interest to hold my money. Ron might be paying them 8%. Someone else might be paying them 5%, and this is based on their credit worthiness. That's been the job of the banks. What are they doing in here? I put $100,000 in here. They might loan out $200,000. They've created more money. There's more money being created in the system, right? And that's really important. Banks are doing this. Other companies are doing this. They're lending out, and they're betting on the fact that people like Ron are going to be more efficient than hanging out and keeping the money there, right? They're betting on the fact that these people will be more efficient, they'll pay back this interest, and the bank will get to profit. They're betting on the fact that Ron has found out that with this 8%, he can make 12% or 20% because he's a business owner. And there have been greater efficiencies to be had and greater production to be had in the world, right? We've had this unbelievable growth worldwide of productivity. And that's what we've been able to find. And finding the best source of capital, the best use of capital, is the whole point of this global economy. Now, here's where this gets kind of exciting. Here's the way that we think about this. What this means is this has taken the idea of creating money from the Fed that's up here down to the banks. And why is that important, or down to the banks? And this can be other public companies that are lending out money, because it's not always banks that are doing it. It's just companies can be lending out money. Maybe that's what they're in business for, is just lending. It could be private people, it could be private equity, it could be hedge funds, anything like that, lending out money. What they're doing is they're taking the need for money creation down closer to the source. They're taking it closer to where it's actually needed. Okay, it's this person, Ron, coming in the door and going, I need money because I can do more with it than you can sitting there. I know what to do. I'm specialized in what I do. That is efficiency. And they've said, okay, we can do that. We're not going to wait around for the Fed to bless us and say, you have more money, here you go lend it out to Ron. We're going, no. We're good at what we do too. We're going to be more efficient, and we're going to lend money out to people like Ron and others that need to borrow. They're closer to the problem. They're closer to the need. And what have we read in management books and everything for the last 20 or 30 years? It's get down closer to where the need is. Stop waiting on middle management or upper management to make decisions, and filter that down and make decisions closer to where the problem is. That's what has been happening, is the banks and the companies that are close to this have been going, hey, we're not going to wait around for those on high to tell us there's more money. We're just going to make it, right? They've just created it. Now, the problem with that is that we've seen come about. The problem with that is, since those banks and those companies are the ones kind of distributing this new kind of manufactured money, this electronic money that's manufactured out of thin air, that is literally just ones and zeros on a spreadsheet. The fact that Ron might be somewhere in a different place. Ron might be someplace like, I don't know, India, Africa, South America, Central America, something like that, that doesn't always have access to the robust banking system, the robust system that we have here in the United States. Ron might also be here in the United States or here in some developed country, but because of a background, because of credit issues or something, doesn't always have access to the same money, because the banks do want to make sure that people like Ron can pay the money back. So what happens is those banks and those other companies still get to control the flow of money. They still have that control. And what that means is they're going to take fees and they're going to cause friction. So if Ron is somewhere in some developing country, or is someplace in a developed country, but he for some reason doesn't have as much access to the banking system. He doesn't have as much access to that capital because of where he's grown up, or because of something previously that happened. Maybe he has a bankruptcy, maybe he has some credit issues, maybe a company he had went under, and maybe it was his fault, maybe it wasn't, who knows. Okay, but the banks now because they're the ones creating the money, have been able to control the flow. And because of that, they've caused fees and friction. And that means that people like Ron, who might be in the developing world, don't always have access because it's still too expensive to let them borrow money, because the bank is going to have to evaluate them and they don't really know how to do it. Enter cryptocurrency and DeFi. Now, because of technology, because we can outsource the flow to technology, to code, now someone like Ron might be able to get a loan or an investment from me, because we don't have to go through the middleman. Because I have money, Ron needs money, we're able to sync up. Now we're taking that, the not just the creation, but the idea of the need of money further down the chain, further down to where people need it exactly, to those people that didn't always have access to the bank. So this is a natural evolution, a natural iteration. Now the tough part is going to be figuring out, how do we take some of those bank functions and some of the risks that they've taken on, and some of the ideas and the concepts that they've created around security and risk mitigation and everything that they've done for years, how do we take that and outsource that to the tech and code? And we're still trying to do that. And we've talked in some of our videos about the idea of identity and establishing credit, establishing a credit score, something like that. That is very important. The risks we've talked about in DeFi, the risks in protocols, the risks in lending and collateralization, everything, we've talked about that. But the idea of this podcast made us think, the reason why there's this need for money and the reason why we've been able to create it is because we're seeing that need further down the line, and now we're able to address it. First, banks were able to do it by the virtue of the fact that they had databases and spreadsheets and everything else where they could evaluate better who needs the money, and had better models to be able to put that in place and identify who was good at paying it back and therefore being more efficient. Now we see that I can do that. I don't have to be a bank. There's a way that I can help evaluate it, outsourcing some of the flow of the money to tech and to code, so that Ron, no matter where he is in the world, if I feel like that's a more efficient use of capital, I can do it. I can get him the money. And that's what's so exciting, and that's what I was thinking about as I was listening to this podcast with NLW and Emil. So I hope you'll listen to the podcast. I hope you'll enjoy this. And I hope we get back to more videos like this that help you understand cryptocurrency, DeFi, blockchain, and why we're so excited, not just about movements in price of cryptocurrency, but about what blockchain tech and what DeFi can do for the efficiency and for the world ecosystem.